Good evening, chat. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Thursday Night Show. Good to see you here. If you are new from earlier today, welcome, welcome, welcome. Want to say hello to everybody out there that's out on Twitch and Rumble, and obviously here on YouTube. Want to say welcome to everybody. Eric says I totally missed the Arcade stream earlier. That was pretty good. It's up still. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. And what the heck is? Oh, so if you guys did not know, I covered the transcript from Nick's family court hearing, and holy cow, it's a great example of why I say don't talk. There's reasons why. There's reasons why I beg you not to talk. But yes, we have a lot to talk about tonight. A lot of things. A couple international related things. Do have some legal implications, and then some pretty interesting stuff happened in the state of New Jersey. That's actually really, really cool, and hopefully will lead to good things. But before we get too far, I did want to say also hello to everybody over on Locals. If you guys don't know what Locals is, it's at potentiallycriminal.locals.com. Locals is basically everything Patreon was meant to be, and everything Patreon could not do, because Patreon's, a disaster. So over there, you guys can join. It costs you nothing to join and become a member for free. You get the access to the wall and the community there. You can post things. I'll post things up there as well. And we can talk and comment and have fun, and it's great. And that's the free part. If you wish to support me, it is $3 a month. If you pay for 10 months, you get 2 months free. And with those $3 a month, you get access to the live shows. And we do live shows every Monday night. And we usually go for quite a while, starting at 8:30. And then after this show, every Thursday night after this show, we hang out over on Locals and go live. All the things we couldn't talk about here, didn't get to here, or things that we're not allowed to talk about on here. For example, if you want to watch a body cam or anything involving a firearm, we can't stream that here. Just as a great example. And that's over at potentiallycriminal.locals.com. If you're interested, but you want to give it a chance to try it out, you can use the promo code Booger Sugar, and you get 1 month free access. And I highly recommend it. I think it's a very fun time. I think it's a very good deal. And you guys could find us there. And in addition to all of that, there's also a live chat that I run during these streams on Thursday nights that anybody can get involved in. And that's over there at, like I said, potentiallycriminal.locals.com. In addition to that, too, you would also get access to our safe house, which is just a chat that's always running. And people seem to love it. They seem to enjoy it there, and they don't cause too many problems. So hopefully I see you guys there tonight. It should be a fun time. Let's see, what else are you guys talking about now? Where's Clyde? Where is he? Where's Clyde? Hold on. Hey, Clyde. Come here, buddy. What? Your public wants to see you. Ah! There he is, chat. See, he's alive. Hey. Hey. No? You got nothing for me? Okay. All right, Bubby. Well, if you're not gonna be cute with me, I'm gonna have to put you down. No, that's it? Okay. All right. I'm gonna have to put you back down, buddy. I gotta get to the show. Oh, you caught my headphones. There you go. All right. So see, there is Clyde. He is alive. I have Coinbase ads showing up in my streams. Oh, that's neat. What are the test results of Clyde's hair follicle test? I'm withholding those results. You'll never get them. HG Cupcake says, good morning. Well, hello. How are you doing? Hope you're doing well. Tickling my LNC? No, because I haven't heard about what happened today, and I need to know that before I go through it. If you guys were not aware, Richard Allen, over the Delphi murders, he's been accused of. Today, was day 3 of their marathon set of hearings, including their motions to dismiss, their motions for discovery violations, and today their attempt to show the judge they have a constitutional right to have a third-party defense and blame a third party for someone else's for the actions of the murder. Now, a lot of that happened today. I have not heard about it. I haven't had a chance to look at it. So we will do that at one point coming up here, but not right now. Not right now. Where are you guys at right here? I'm trying to catch up here. A very dignified dog. Yes, he's a very good dog. Very dignified, very good boy. Very, very good boy. Clyde's one of the best. EDW Raptor gifted 10 memberships. Thank you. Thank you, EDW. And then he also said for $5, remember, chat, it's good to be green. Of course, it's always good to be green. And guys, if you are also new, we try to give a couple minutes to let people catch up and get in here because it doesn't. YouTube isn't always the best at notifying. If you do want to get notified all the time, Twitch is still apparently the best way to be notified, which is still weird, but I'll take it. We will take it. Let's see here. What else is there? Hold on here. Just double checking. Let me see here. Let me see. Where is... Let me see. What was one thing I was looking for? That's okay. We'll worry about it later. We will worry about it later. I thought I found something, but I'll take care of it. Twitch has to be good at something. Yeah, well, they let a lot of pedophiles and communists on there, so they're very good at that. We're very good at that. Jason says, have you done any additional work on the plane models? No. And this weekend might be a good weekend for that because I'm pretty much caught up on a lot of things. So we might be able to take care of that this weekend and start working on it. And you guys, normally I say 10 minutes, but we got a lot of people here. I think it's time to roll. We are burning daylight. So let's get going. The first thing, I think this one is very... we're about a month out from September 11th, and I think it's very poignant. If you guys were not aware, the military commissions, all that stuff going on in Guantanamo, the global war on terror is kind of like wound down. All that stuff is, 23 years ago. Guantanamo Bay is still running and operating, and there's still people detained there, including one of them is Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. And if you guys don't remember him, he's been around for a while, and he is accused and was charged with plotting and orchestrating September 11th. So, I mean, if you guys don't know who Khalid Sheikh Mohammed is, also, he's a Pakistani citizen. He was captured in 2003 and was held by the CIA for a couple of years in their various black sites and renditioned around, where he was alleged to have been tortured. They claim he was waterboarded, among all kinds of other things. He ended up in Guantanamo Bay about like 2006, 2007. I remember when I was in college it happened. And he was one of the handful of people facing capital murder charges. He was facing the death penalty for his role in this, compared to a lot of other people. So his situation was a little different. And if you guys don't remember, there were people who were captured all over as part of the global war on terror that were detained in Guantanamo Bay. People from Yemen, Malaysia, Iraq, Saudi Arabia. We're not supposed to talk about that one. Pakistan, Indonesia. People found all over, and a lot of people had been sent home. A lot of people had been sent home. A lot of people had been released. But Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was sticking around, and part of the reason why his case took forever is because there were the issues about dealing with what happened in this case and what happened to him. And that, all these things were secretive. What the CIA did to him was not clear. And there were concerns and there were arguments through his legal team that what they had done to torture him and abuse him in the CIA black sites tampered all the evidence and contaminated all the evidence. And remember, he still has rights. Those rights are still there. And if they tortured him and he said things, well, obviously that could be inadmissible. There could be a lot of problems with what was said. Well, there was a release, and yesterday they ended up agreeing to plead guilty to the murder of 2,976 people. And those are the people who died on September 11th. And we learned about it through the release from the Department of Defense. If you guys weren't aware, the Department of Defense is the one who's in charge of prosecuting them. Now, I am not on mute. KSM saying, if I did it. Well, he did a little more than if I did it. Yes. Khalid Sneed Mohammed. Sweet Tooth saying, can Trump do anything to this deal? No, if there's a deal made, he can't go back and revoke it or undo it. Once it's been made, it's been made. So what, and if you want to see what that is, this was the letter, kind of the announcement released by the Department of Defense, and it's the Office of the Chief Prosecutor for the Military Commissions. Now, if you guys, the military commissions are what occurred down in Guantanamo Bay. And there was a lot of neat stuff about them that I actually knew people in law school, they took advantage of a program where if you made your way to Andrews Air Force Base, they'd send you down there. You got a free plane ride down. You got free, it's Cuba. So it's like you're staying in like, kind of like temporary housing. You just had to pay for food. And I thought it was a pretty neat setup. I was never able to take advantage of it. But I thought it'd be neat. You go down there and watch it as a legal observer. Now, you're stuck behind the glass and all the other parties are in the courtroom. And when they got to like classified stuff, they'd black out the windows, which I'm sure probably happened a lot. But still, you can be down there to watch parts of it. Anyways, they get to it here and they bring up, this is kind of their press release and more of what they notified, the families, because there's a lot of people affected by September 11th, a ton. To the families of the September 11th victims, they were providing an update on the United States versus, KSM et al., and that means et al., his other accomplices. In March 2022, they notified you it had entered negotiations with Defense Counsel. Think about that. They've been doing this for over 2 years regarding pretrial agreements. A 2.5-year-long plea negotiation. So, and as because they are victims, they have rights, and they met with them in several locations, discussed the possibility of pretrial agreements. And they did this multiple times. They met with everybody. The comments were then provided to the Office of the Convening Authority, and the U.S. government, empowered by the DoD with authority, entered into pretrial agreements on behalf of the United States government. They've been going for 27 months. There's a 27-month-long plea negotiation. That's crazy. That's part of the reason why nothing's happened also. And they point out that during the July and August session of the commissions, KSM, Wali bin Atash, and Mustafa al-Hassawi entered into pretrial agreements with the convening authority. In exchange for the removal of the death penalty as a possible punishment, the three accused have pled guilty to all the charged offenses, including the murder of 2,976 people listed in the charge sheet, and to be later sentenced by a panel of military officers. Well, and that's the thing. This is a military commission, so they're all facing military judges. As part of the agreement, they have also agreed to a process to respond to questions submitted by the victims' family members regarding their roles and reasons for conducting 9/11. And they're saying, and this is addressed to them, the victims' families, should you have any unanswered questions about the attacks you would like answered? This process requires that you submit any questions you want to ask the accused or office no later than 45 days from this notification. So, a little bit after Labor Day, you're going to have to give them a heads up so they can consolidate and submit them to their defense counsel. They've agreed to respond to your questions within 90 days of receipt. So we anticipate that answers will be provided by the end of this calendar year, which that's interesting. It's not like, oh, we'll read through some of them. It sounds like they're agreeing to respond to everyone that comes in, which, although I bet a lot of them are going to be fairly redundant. They can just do canned answers. So for that reason, if you know anybody, they have 45 days. I'm sure the government's already got in touch with them, but yeah, they have 45 days to get a question in. They've already been, and they said most of you already have access to the notification system, but they're telling people that that's out there, and you can submit. You could submit any questions to them online. So it's very interesting. It's very interesting they did that. They say we currently anticipate taking of the guilty pleas will be scheduled either the week of August 5th or during the September-October session of the commission. And they'll provide more specifics as the military judges set a schedule for the entry of the pleas. Following the entry of the pleas, a sentencing hearing will be scheduled where the parties will have an opportunity to present evidence and argue for appropriate sentence. But let's be real. Those guys ain't fucking getting out anytime soon. Like, never. The earliest the first sentencing hearing will occur is summer 2025. During the sentencing hearings, there may be an opportunity for a member of your family to testify, that what's happened, and provide an impact statement will be considered by the military jury in determining the sentence. Our prosecution team also plans to travel again to various locations this fall to speak with you in person and help you figure out any questions that you may have. They recognize the case in general, and this news in particular will understandably and appropriately elicit intense emotion. We also realize the decision to enter into the pretrial agreement will be met with mixed emotions. Oh, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are happy it's over, but I'm sure there are a lot of people who are fucking livid. The decision to enter the pretrial agreement after 12 years of pretrial litigation. And guys, see, 12 years of pretrial litigation. They've been dealing with this for 12 years now. Was not reached lightly. But they point out, based on our reasoning, we thought this was correct. So that's what they did. So as you see here, there's a couple of those signed by the chief prosecutor, the managing trial counsel, the trial counsel, and then the victims assistance program director. So yeah, it's going to be bittersweet for a lot of people, but I think overall at the end, it's good for some closure. It's been 20 years. Hopefully we have a little bit, and hope those people get some closure because, yeah, I mean, fuck, I still remember that. I was 16. I was sitting in algebra class when the first tower fell. That was so fucking weird back then. It's still weird to think about it today. And some of you watching this are fucking Zoomers, and you have no idea what we're talking about. Some of you Zoomers have no idea. You don't remember any of this. Some of you weren't even alive, which I find truly makes me feel old when it's like, I wasn't alive for 9/11. It's like, fuck. That's what really makes it weird. So Luke says, I wasn't alive. That is so weird to hear. So weird to hear. Tim says, I was getting ready for work when it happened. Yeah, well, I was a sophomore in high school. Kat says, I was cleaning someone's teeth. Jules says, I was sitting at a casino in Detroit. Yes. Oh, well, that's not a bad place to be. Michael says, I'm in my 30s. Yes, I turned 39 in a couple of weeks. Brad says, I was passed out on the floor after a party. Well, that's one way to go, too. Tim says, I was alive. I was a year older than you. Yeah. All right. WrestlerTown is a new member. Thank you, WrestlerTown. And also gifted 5 memberships. Thank you very much for your support and your generosity. That's a shame, says lots of people who weren't alive for September 11th have kids now. I know. That's so fucking weird. It's so weird. It's funny. It's weird, and that's weird and funny. That is actually weird and funny. Jason says, since this was a military court and not the DOJ, will he need to be placed in a military prison, or could they place him legally in a federal civilian prison? I think technically they could place him anywhere. Like, then maybe they will send him to Florence, the ADX in Florence. They might keep him at Guantanamo. They might keep him at Gitmo forever. I don't know. But yeah, he could be sent to like ADX, and that's probably where he's going to go and live out his days. So, Mexican Vader says maybe we'll finally know what really happened to Building 7. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, that would be fucking hilarious if one of those showed up. It's like, tell me what happened to Building 7, and they're like, these guys are gonna be sitting there with their attorneys like, we have to respond or they're gonna get mad at us, and we can't say fuck you because I'm sure we'll get in trouble for that. So they're like, I don't know what you mean. And whoever gets it back will be like, I knew it. They did it. I could totally see that happening. Super Wiener says, I was super young and extremely pissed on September 11th because I was trying to eat French toast sticks and watch Barney when those dumb buildings came on TV. I know. They ruined your day. They ruined your day. And Michael Boyle says, ask KSM how he knew the jet fuel would melt the steel beams. Yes. How did you plan that, sir? Tell me. Now, there's going to be things people will ask that probably will be considered. We can't reveal it because it's classified material. But I don't know. That would be a funny one, though. Yes. Have you been in contact with your Mossad handlers? Yes, Building 7. Yes, Vintage Mom is correct. Building 7. Look it up, Gen Z. Yes, I agree. Y'all need to watch. Y'all need to look it up. Y'all need to look it up, Gen Zers. Like, you think USS Liberty was bad? Let me tell you what. I got something that was 100 times worse. Okay, come on. How's this gonna clean? Yeah, I remember United 93 was shot down. I've heard that too, but I don't. Those guys nosedived it when they were getting attacked. When the people in the back started fighting back, they just went over. The fighter planes did not catch up to it. Yes, and that's the other thing too, though. Reflecting on September 11th and all that happened. Where is it here? Somebody just said it. Yeah, the Patriot Act was the worst part of it. And yes, the Patriot Act came out of September 11th. And, that was one of the worst things. I mean, very shortly after that, and not shortly after the Patriot Act, we ended up with the authorization and use of military force, the AUMF. Then we ended up with Iraq. Then we end up with things like the National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA. Yeah, so much changed. Yeah, and the Patriot Act is being pitched on the floor of the Senate within 48 hours. Yep. Yeah, that's yeah. And then El D'Agusto saying Trump killed the Patriot Act. He killed it in name. But I would tell you this, to argue those authorities, powers, and abuses didn't simply relocate under a different name somewhere else in the government. Once they get it, they never give up power. They never give it up. The government is forever. You give them power, they never secede it. They never cede power. You have to forcibly take it from them. And I'm sure it all switched around. It's very much like the disinformation board where we covered Nina Jankowicz. Sure, she got run out of town out of the thing she initially was on, but what happened within like 3 months? She was on another government oversight board. So it's yeah, doesn't change a whole lot there. Yep, and Job well done says the same authorization use of military force we're still using. Yes, 20 some years later, the same authorization for the use of military force, the AUMF, is still being used now. Basically, it's a constant declaration of war without being a declaration of war. Cedar Rose said Alternative History did a video on what if 9/11 never happened. It's a good video. I'll have to look for that. Tim Riggs says, just remember, as Matt and Trey taught us, it's been 22.3 years. We can officially make jokes about it now. Oh, yeah, we totally can. I mean, heck, I remember within like a year or two, I was on a job site and they're like, can you hand me the 737 keys? And I'm like, what? The guy held up a box cutter and he's like, keys to a 737. And I was like, oof. I'm like, that's also funny. Yeah, Joe Biden was involved in pitching, and yes, he was. Yeah, the Patriot Act moved on. It just changed names. Adam says I was 4 months old when September 11th happened. Oof. Jeez. Yeah, Matt B. And that was the interesting thing. Before the TSA, you could literally walk all the way up. Or even if you couldn't get all the way up, you could get through most of the concourse of an airport. But even then, a lot of places, you could walk all the way up to the gate and wait for your loved ones. It was a different world back then, guys. If you've never, for you youngins, it was a different time, man. It was a different time. And I think this is where I'll probably end it. But I agree with Vintage Mom here. Yeah. Back then we couldn't imagine what this got us with our duplicitous government and what they were going to do and what they happened to us. And as she says, yeah, I'm sorry, guys, I fell for it all. Well, don't worry. A lot of us, well, not even a lot of us fell for it. A lot of us just didn't realize what was happening. I mean, I feel like a huge piece of shit, and I was only like 16 when it all went down. It's like, wow, it's crazy. But yes, those never went away. Never went away. So. And that's a shame of saying for Gen Z, 9/11 was like COVID and that everything just got generally, vaguely, indescribably worse after it. Yeah, no, I agree. But that was, I will say for them, that sucks because they got for years of it. Tim says 9/11 happened 4 days before my 21st birthday. Wound up a different kind of party at the bar. Yeah. Matt B says, thank you, by the way, Tim. I appreciate that. Matt B says, I bought a hook, line, and sinker. I'm like, a lot of us did, man. A lot of us did. A lot of us did. So, John saying, I bet I was fly as fuck in a pair of Jinko jeans. Oh, you have no idea, Holmes. You have no idea back in the day. You have no idea. You have no idea. All right, guys. So, yeah, with that, it'll be interesting to see what happens. It will be interesting to follow along and, see. Where are we now? Oh, so moving on to Ashley Benefield. If you guys remember, she's the ballerina who was accused of murdering her estranged husband, and she claimed it was in self-defense. Well, she had her trial last week and this week, and on day 6, that would have been Tuesday night, we ended up with a marathon hearing, a marathon jury verdict, because the jury deliberations went till almost 11 o'clock. And holy cow, they went the distance. So she did end up having her verdict. And if you guys did not get the chance to watch it, we're going to cover it real quick here just so you guys have an idea what actually happened to Ashley. Oh, yeah, there you go, long cock. That's for you. Right, here you go.
In proper form. All right, the verdict appears to be in proper form. Madam Clerk, would you please publish the verdict?
In the Circuit Court of the 12th Judicial Circuit in 4 Manatee County, Florida, the State of Florida versus Ashley Benefield, case number 2020 CF 3014. Verdict. We, the jury, finds as follows as to the defendant in this case. The defendant is guilty of manslaughter, a lesser included offense. Did Ashley Benefield actually carry a firearm? Yes. Did Ashley Benefield discharge a firearm? Yes. Did Ashley Benefield, as a result of discharging a firearm, cause death to Douglas Benefield? Yes. So say we all this 30th day of July, 2024, at Bradenton, Manatee County, Florida. Cheryl Forkerson.
Would either side like the jury polled? State? Defendants?
Yes, sir.
Members of the jury, you're now going to be polled. The clerk is going to ask each of you individually if this is your verdict and the verdict of the jury as a whole.
So, guys, what happened there? She was found not guilty of the murder, second-degree murder, but she was found guilty of manslaughter. And because she used a firearm, because she had a firearm on her, and then she used the firearm in the commission of manslaughter, she is now facing an enhanced sentence. She's facing a minimum mandatory of about 10 years or so, give or take. And then she's facing anywhere from about 10 to 10 and a half years, up to 30 years in prison. Because of the firearm use, she's looking at up to 30 years. She's looking at a lot of prison time. She was taken into custody right after this happened. And yes, do I think it was a BS verdict? Sure. But at the end of the day, I could see why the jury got there. It totally made sense. Sweet Tooth saying, my question is, why no crying? Well, this has been going on for days on end. A lot of times you're just emotionally spent at a trial. I'm sure she's also probably taken some Valium or something like that to kind of calm her down. But she also just could be like, I'm done. Just whatever. Like, I'm sure she was probably like, I've had clients like this. They're like, I don't care what the verdict is. I just want a verdict, so it's done. Sometimes you just don't care anymore. You're done having emotions already. So, but yes, if you guys didn't cover the Ashley Benefield trial with us, yes. So she married a guy named Doug Benefield. They met down at Mar-a-Lago at a Trump event, and they got married within 13 days of meeting each other. These guys were, and the thing is, they're both crazy. Like, they're both psychopaths. Like, both of them have a history of doing really fucked up things. Doug, had shot a gun off inside the house, had beaten their pets. But Ashley, on the other hand, like, she pops out her kid in the delivery room and she's demanding the cops go arrest Doug. And she even got to the point where the cops even commented when they refused to do what she wanted. She screamed at him and went, "Ree!" And she really did. She really went ree. And these guys were both just train wrecks. They were both horrible for each other, but, they are where they are. Yeah, it's not a good week for sentences. Yeah, well, yeah, that happens. That happens. But her sentencing is not anytime soon. We don't actually know what it's going to be. At a minimum, it's probably like 6 to 8 weeks out from here. But otherwise, yeah. Happy trails. And I mentioned this before. None of her issues on appeal are really going to change anything for her. I mean, she's done. She done. And that's it. Now, we also have another case we've been following for quite a while where things kind of died down. And it was Nicolae Miu. And if you guys remember, he's the guy who got the stabbing on the Apple River, where all them boys were just tubing. And they were on the tubes and acting like idiots. And remember, like I said, I don't feel bad for anybody in that situation. They all kind of got what was coming to them. I mean, they truly deserved it, you know. And yeah, so he had his sentencing hearing earlier this week, and it was all just hours and hours and hours of it. Now, what we did not get to hear at the beginning were the victim impact statements of anybody. For some reason, under Wisconsin law, they're allowed to say, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be on camera. And they have to respect that wish, which I think is a bit much, but oh well. So. Anyways, guys, we're going to switch over to. So, and when Nicolae Miu, he ended up getting sentenced, and we did cover that. And if you guys were not aware, here's Nicolae Miu's sentence that he's currently, that was handed down. Obviously, there's no surprise of, oh, I'm not going to actually sentence you to jail. But here you go.
So at this time, I will impose the following sentence on Mr. Miu. For count 1, I will impose a term of initial confinement of 20 years, followed by 6 years of extended supervision. For count 2, involving Anthony Carlson, 5 years initial confinement, followed by 5 years of extended supervision. Count 3, involving Dante Carlson, 5 years of initial confinement, followed by 5 years of extended supervision. Count 4, Alexander Martin, 6 years of initial confinement, followed by 5 years of extended supervision. Count 5, Riley Madison, 5 years initial confinement, followed by 5 years of extended supervision. Count 6, Madison Cohen, 270 days of jail. Mr. Miu is not eligible for challenge incarceration program or the earned release program due to his age and the nature of these offenses. The sentences on all 6 counts will run concurrent. I am imposing a concurrent sentence because Mr. Miu's conduct toward each of his victims was part of a single continuous act over a short period of time. The periods of confinement take into consideration Mr. Miu's entire behavior, not just the behavior directed at any one particular individual. The conditions of extended supervision will include the following: maintain absolute sobriety, no possession of drugs or alcohol. You shall not enter any establishment where the primary purpose is the sale of alcohol. This will include places like bars, taverns, liquor stores, beer tents, and the like. You must complete an AODA assessment. You must comply with all recommendations of the Compass assessment and the department.
So there you go, guys. It was a very, like you said, this went on for hours and hours and hours. And some of you are asking questions. Does he at least get time served factored in at least? Yes. So he's got credit for about 2 years down already. 2 years down, 20 to go. Yes, he gets, there are some reductions available for him, guys, but nothing super huge. He's going to be doing a lot of this time. He's going to do a lot of this time going forward. So, and I know we talked about this as well, and I think Deanna's correct here. His actions after the fact are what screwed him over. When you get involved in a deadly force, like you use self-defense, okay, great. You throw the weapon away, you change your identity, and you hide from the police when you walk right by them and you try to hide from them. That's what bad guys do. And he looked like a bad guy. So they treated him like a bad guy. Adam saying just because he tossed the knife is the only reason he got found. Oh, no, Adam, there were other issues. Tossing the knife, changing your identity, and then, trying to walk away from the police. And when they're up there, he's trying to walk away. And then when they put him in the back of the car, he's like, oh, wait, somebody got stabbed? Oh, no, that sounds so bad and scary. That all sounds like shit a really bad guy would do. He didn't come out and say, oh, my God, I was in fear of my life, and I had to do what I had to do. That's why he lost. He lost because of all those things. He panicked, sure, and he did stupid things. Do I think he acted in self-defense? Sure. But he gave the jury an excuse that they didn't have to believe him. And it's his actions that led to that. Yeah, he gave a wild story at the station, too. Yep. Yes, I get rid of knives all the time. I'm still free. Well, my knives don't have people attached to them yet. But yes. So I'm sure Nicolae Miu is going to start appealing things, but it's, he's done too. Given his health conditions stuff, he probably will not. I mean, he's going to make it out of prison in very, very, very bad shape. So. Davel saying, is it better to walk away from a crime or surrender? Well, if you find law enforcement, you're like, oh my God, guys, you're here. Thank God. These people attacked me. I had to defend myself. You're not just like going like, do. Oh, you caught me. What? Oh, what happened? I don't know. That's what got him. And that's what really killed him. That's what really killed him right there. So, and here's the thing. I think all those people that got stabbed deserved it. That's the funny part. That's the truly funny part here. Wait, what? Oh, the locals chat ended early? What the hell happened? What happened here? That was stupid. I don't know why that happened. Sorry, chat. Don't know what happened there. So, my apologies. I don't have time to really set a new one up, so you guys are kind of SOL for now. Okay, but yeah, good luck, Nicolae. You're going to need it. You are going to need it. Nick, shut it down. Yeah. Matt says it never started. Oh, well, my apologies. It said it did. As long as he's on the tube, he was subject to maritime law. Yeah. Peter is my first name, says Sean could easily be a comedy writer and performer. No, I couldn't. No, I couldn't. I mean, being a fat guy who gets really loud, that's kind of a played out trope. But I appreciate the thought. And the Tim Riggs has been a member for 5 memberships. Thank you, Tim. Thank you for the support, and thank you for the generosity. All right, guys, moving on from there. Oh. It's, it's some of the stuff sucks. Some of these stories suck. Some of them are not fun. Moving on, the exchange of prisoners and people being held between the United States and Russia. You guys remember we talked about this the last time things happened. You had people like Brittany Griner being held in custody because she's a moron. And then we had people like the Lord of War, Victor Bout. And we thought, hey, let's trade this like so-so basketball player for like a renowned arms trafficker and bad guy. So guess what we did? We did that. And with that, other people who had been sitting in prison in Russia for a while now, including Evan Gershkovich, who's a New York Times reporter, who's been sitting at, as of recently, about 16 months, so longer than Brittany Griner, sitting in prison, accused of being a spy. And then a guy named Paul Whelan, he's a former Marine, and he's accused of being a glowy too, which it wouldn't surprise me if these guys were glowies a little bit here and there. I mean, that's just natural for the business when you're doing that kind of stuff. Anyway, we have a bunch of Russian people who've been convicted of espionage, but there are also Russians who have been detained all over Europe. So in exchange for these, a big prisoner swap happened. And this prisoner swap was, a couple other people here. So, and they point out that this is a very, very complex thing. And that's true. If you guys have ever seen that Bridge of Spies, that's kind of normally how this stuff got done. That's normally how this stuff was handled. You go somewhere like that and things like would happen very quietly and nobody's bragging about it. Nothing gets put out there. But anyways, it involved more than 6 countries and 24 prisoners. And it secured the release of 3 American citizens from Russia, including Evan Gershkovich, Paul Whelan, who's been there for a long time then. And then also a radio journalist, I don't know I think it's also then Karamsheva. All of them are back in America now. And it was a 24-person prisoner swap. And one of the biggest since the Cold War. And we did these routinely during the Cold War. So I do like they point out that it was a hard-fought win for the Biden administration. Yes, unlike Brittany Griner, yes, I'll give you credit. This was actually good. But yes, they freed more than 60 hostages or wrongful detainees from around the world over the past 3 years. Yes. So, and here are the 3 of them. Here's Gershkovich, here's Paul Whelan, and then here's the other person. All 3 of them. And that says they're back in U.S. Custody, basically. But there's a bunch of Russians that are being held in U.S. prisons, including 3 other ones. And these guys are going back to Russia. There are 2 Russians held in Slovenia, 1 in Poland, and another in Norway. And all these people are known or suspected ties to Russian intelligence, according to U.S. officials. And the funny thing is, all these people, these 3, the Russians think they're all fucking glowies. I mean, that's the funny part. Like, well, we suspect them being involved with Russian intelligence. Like, and the Russians think these guys are involved with American intelligence. So, yes, and I'm sure there was a little bit of glowiness with these 3 at some level. So, on here. Oh, hold on, guys. Come here, Lainey. No, she doesn't want to come over here. Oh, well. Oh, so guys, on a good note, as pointed out by, hold on. Holy cow, she's losing her damn mind, chat. Anyway, the good news is, I think that's 2.0s. Yes. So, Richard Allen is being released from prison, and he's being placed in the Cass County jail. So, on a good note, Richard Allen is no longer being held in prison. That's a really, really good thing. Guys, if you don't remember, Richard Allen is the guy who's being held in Indiana. He's accused of murdering the 2 girls out in Delphi, Indiana. It's a 2017 cold case where, like, nothing adds up to blaming him. And it is it is really good news that he's getting out of that prison situation, because that was really horrible for him and was kind of destroying him. And Clyde is attempting to overthrow. No, that's all Laney, the other dog. So it's just the one dog barking, guys. That was one dog. Laney. That was just one dog, chat. That's one dog. Yeah. He's not out. He's still in custody. He's just now in a local jail. He's no longer in the prison system. So, chat, hold on one second. I gotta see what the hell's wrong with it. Real quick, chat. We're going to share this because I think this is breaking news. And here it is. Guys, I wasn't muted. I was trying to figure out where I was at, so I wasn't talking, if you noticed. Anyway, day 3 ended with a twist. And this is surprising. Judge Gold wasn't a cunt for once. She vacated the safekeeping order and is letting him go to jail, which will be nice. And according to a couple of you guys, Matt, you're saying county is 1,000 times worse than prison? No. Hold on one second. No. He spent nearly 2 years now in solitary confinement. He hasn't been able to see his attorneys. He's basically, they let him deteriorate to the point where he was trying to kill himself and like roll around in his own shit. So no, what they did to him in prison, where he was locked up in a maximum security prison in solitary, no, that's 1,000 times fucking worse than county jail. So no, he's going to be at a jail where he's supervised. The county's already made room for him. His attorney is like literally around the corner. No, this is 1,000 times better than where he was. No. This is a safer place for him. So that is, yeah, but that's neat. He's going to get to go home, or he's going to get to go to like where people can be there. I wasn't muted. She's still a cunt. Oh yeah. She's still a stupid cunt. But I think she's doing this because that way she can give up some of these bullshit orders. That way they can't claim she was biased later on down the road. Yeah, he's still going to be in protective custody, but his protective custody is 1,000 times better at a local jail than it is in a prison system. So for him, it's a lot safer. Yeah, he was eating his own shit, running headfirst into the wall. Like, no, where he was at in prison was meant to break him and kill him. So Das Boot says, why the fuck was he in solitary? Because the local sheriff said, I can't care for him. I don't want him in my jail. I can't protect him. So they moved him into the prison system. And because he's not convicted, he can't be housed with the regular inmates. So he was stuck in solitary because they had no other place to put him. And I mean, it was orchestrated to cause him to kill himself or confess. So, yeah. Oh, Johan saying, I gave you 300 coin thingies. You're welcome. Oh, did you over in locals? Well, thank you. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. Peter says, how is that not cruel punishment? Well, it was. But it doesn't matter to the judge in the case. And guys, we'll get back to covering Richard Allen. Judge Francis Gull is a complete piece of shit. So we'll get back to that. We'll get back to that. Why she's such a fucking scumbag. So, all right, guys. With that said, though, I think that was important to cover because it is kind of it's a big deal. It's a big deal. So good for Richard Allen. Yeah, glad he's out. Glad he's out of prison. Back in jail. Job well done says they couldn't throw him in the med ward. Well, no, because he can't be there forever. No. Nope. They wouldn't do it. So anyway, yes, so these people are back. And you know, this whole thing took place. And this is actually kind of how this stuff happens. It's on an airport tarmac somewhere in a third-party country. Plane A lands, people get off. Plane B lands, they get off, and they walk across the tarmac to the other plane, and that's it. So that is kind of where this started. You know, I bet these guys are happy they're home, like him, and her. But I'm sure they're like, why the fuck did Brittany Griner go home first? Which I'd be very pissed off if I had them. I'd be like, why did you do Brittany Griner before me? But anyways, yes, Gershkovich was sentenced to 16 years in prison just recently in July. So yeah, he's been there. He's been waiting. So he was going to be gone for a long, long time. And Paul Whelan is one of the longest held American prisoners that was in Russia. He was arrested in 2018. And he was sentenced to 16 years in prison in 2020. So this guy spent 6 years in prison in Russia. So, and then Kurumsheva, she was detained in June of 2023. Which, her being in charge of Radio Free Europe, and you know, that is a State Department propaganda thing from the Cold War. It's like, I can't imagine if you're actively involved in that. You're like, oh, I'm just going to go back to Russia. And you're like, oh, I got arrested. What the heck? Well, she was sentenced to 6.5 years in prison because they accused her of using propaganda about the Russian military and their operations in Ukraine. So these people were all facing very serious crimes. Yeah, don't go for a wedding. Like, if you know what the fuck you're doing there, don't go fuck around. Demon's Wrath says 6 years in a Russian prison. I'll bet that's no joke. Oh, yeah. Fuck being in one of those. That would be horrible. Yes, Gopnik prison is no joke. And Rocco says, again, all three were spies. Very likely in some form or another. I mean, that's the funny part. You know, the New York Times article here, it says, like, well, the Russians have intelligence ties. It's like, all three of these people probably have intelligence ties. Let's be real. Let's be real. They all have intelligence ties. They're all glowies in some form or another. Michael says, do you think all three were innocent? I'm sure that they weren't doing whatever it is Russia accused them of, but I'm sure they were glowies of some sort or another. I mean, most of the people doing that stuff glow a little bit. So, oh well. It's part of the odds you play when you play the game. So they are all done. And where are we? And then from there, there is a bit of an update and all the things going on with former President Donald Trump. And this one is that the New York Court of Appeals will not completely remove his gag order pending his sentencing coming up. So parts of his gag order are still going to remain in effect until he's sentenced in September. So the New York Court of Appeals declined to end the entire thing. But he had gotten prior, and if you guys remember, we covered this. He had gotten parts of this lifted back in June. And if you guys remember, he was allowed to start talking and doing things that normally he wasn't allowed to. But yes, from the brave judge Juan Mercan, kept restrictions in place that barred him from commenting on the prosecutors and their families, at least until his sentencing. And they ordered that, and they put together a 3-page order, kind of laying out what's going to happen to him and how they're going to handle it. And they put it all together. And if you guys don't remember some of the parties involved in this, and actually, I forgot to mention this before. I'll put it up in locals because I mentioned it before and people keep asking me about it. Trump's attorney, Todd Blanche, who's running all kinds of things for him in all these cases, actually gave a really good interview that only a couple hundred people have actually watched here on YouTube. But it's like an hour-long interview. It's phenomenal listening to this guy talk. This guy is so brilliant. So anyway, he challenged the post-trial motion to terminate the original restraining order. So, and they point out that, while Donald Trump asserts a cause of action for judgment, it's a codification of the common law writ of prohibition. And they talk about a bunch of things here. And what do they decide? Well, they point out that already in the previous challenge, they held that Judge Mercan properly weighed the First Amendment rights of Trump against the court's historical commitment to ensuring the fair administration of justice in criminal cases. Remember, who's entitled to the fair administration of justice? The defendant. I don't care about the state. Nobody should be caring about the state. If you don't want people to mock you, don't work for the state. It's pretty easy to do that. It's a pretty easy situation here. And following the verdict, they granted much of Trump's motion to extent terminating provisions of the restraining order governing the issues about trial witnesses and the jury. However, we retained paragraph B covering the district attorney, and because they need to perform their lawful duties free from threats, intimidation, and harassment and harm. What was Donnie going to do to him? What was Trump going to do to him? Poor Trump. They're so scared. He's so big and mean. And yes, courts are empowered to protect against the unfair administration of justice. Only one side's entitled to the fair administration of justice. So they point out that criminal action terminates the imposition of a sentence or final disposition. So none of that's occurred here. And since the underlying action remains pending, the judge did not end access of his jurisdiction because he still has jurisdiction over the case. So he can do these narrowly tailored protections. And they point out that the prosecutor's evidentiary submissions in opposition to his motion demonstrate that the threats received by the district attorney staff after the verdict continue to pose a significant and imminent threat. Well, are they arresting people? I mean, because if it's a real threat, then arrest people, do your thing. Yeah. Oh, well, no, they're not. So that's what happened with Trump. They're just saying, because you're a bad man, Trump, we're not going to let you talk. I'm going to let you talk. And Kazuhiro Miller is saying, that is the game, Sean. Of course it's the game. It's like, as Cuddy said, when he said the game doesn't change, Slim Charles is right. He's like, game's the same. It's just got more fierce. I think that's something to take to heart. Tim Riggs gifted 10 memberships, and he says, I like the color green. Well, thank you, Tim. Tim did 5 more memberships. Adam did 5 memberships. You guys, thank you so much for your support and generosity. And then Adam says Biden did it just for the votes for Democrats. I'm sure it's possible. And then Tim Riggs says being in an enemy country carries risk. It does. And Kyle Cowden says it was like Korean Airlines flight 007. 007, really? Well, the funny thing is, there was actually some information that got revealed about that, and it came from a defecting Soviet pilot. And he defected back in the end of the Cold War. Alexander Zverev. He defected from over in Georgia, and he basically flew from Georgia. He flew from Georgia down the Black Sea to Turkey and landed in Turkey and surrendered to the Americans there. So he brought over a fully fueled and armed MiG-29 Fulcrum. The Russians got it back right away, but we kept him. And he brought up some information that because he had spent time over in the Far East air defenses being a fighter pilot, the reason why Korean Airlines flight 007 didn't get detected until it was too late is the Russians suffered a massive winter storm that knocked out a couple of their radar stations. And because the Koreans had a nasty habit of ignoring the flight paths anyway in the flight corridors, they strayed well into Soviet airspace and nobody gave a shit. And then finally, when they got picked up on radar, they immediately got sent up, and yeah, then there was the shoot down. So yeah, that's a true air disaster. True air disaster. A lot of when you read about the people that were on that plane, it's like things that make you go, Yeah, definitely look into that one, chat. Johan Naxos is saying, DJ Blyatman, my boyfriend, the Russian Gopnik, is a banger. Oh. Very funny. Very, very, very funny. All right. And Tim Riggs says, I trust, thank you for the super chat, by the way, is saying, I trust someone calling me out of the blue to let me know about a great deal on paying my taxes with iTunes gift cards more than I trust the judicial system whenever Donald Trump is involved. Yeah, no, I think that's a fair assessment nowadays. Anubis says, I'm glad I live in the States. Yeah, it's, like I said, it's still a shitty thing, but it's still the best system I'd want to get tried under. Alyssa Marie says, yes, this picture of all the U.S. people who got rescued, I'm surprised there wasn't a... I agree. I'm surprised there wasn't a picture of these guys holding up a Ukrainian flag as well, just the American flag. It's very impressive. Very, very impressive. So that's always good news. Rockwell says, yes, he flew a fighter jet. Yes, a MiG-29. He flew it out of Georgia down the Black Sea coast to Turkey. Tim Riggs gifted 10 more memberships. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. And yes, this is who we are. It says holy. Well, remember, it's HOL. But I give you points for trying. I know where your heart was in the right place. Okay, so where are we at here? All right. All right, so this one I thought was very interesting. This came from Ag Biochemist. I mean, this totally makes sense for down in New Orleans here. And this is this one. Can we hit the goal, chat? Yes. Anubis Ash saying Georgia to Turkey isn't that long of a flight path. It's not. The problem is he had to fly out of his airbase in the center of Georgia, get past the Soviet air defenses, avoid getting caught by Soviet air patrols, and also avoid getting chased down by his squadron mates that he fed them a cake loaded up with tranquilizers, and they all passed out. Well, they were hunting him, and he had to get out of there super quick. But he basically like head chopped all the way here, all the way to Turkey. So it was really dangerous, very, very, very dangerous. So basically, Firefox, kind of. But anyways, guys, this one's funny. I know you're like, well, it's somebody impersonating an attorney. It's like, who would want to do that? You'd be surprised at people that try to do funny business involving attorneys. It happens a lot, and it can get you in a lot of deep shit. So a woman was arrested after allegedly posing as attorney to gain access to inmates at a jail down in Louisiana. So she was booked on multiple charges, including false presentation, which I don't know what that means. Maybe something important. Practicing law without a license, and criminal trespassing. And what happened is, so these two guys were getting booked. They were rebooking two inmates, the detectives were. And she walked up to the detectives claiming to be their attorney. This didn't go so well because, unbeknownst to our brilliant, legal analyst here, they recognized her from their ongoing investigation and the inmates and knew she was like their baby mom or their drug woman. Like, what a dumbass. And then during her booking, detectives learned that she had arrived with others waiting in a car outside the jail. And one of the individuals was arrested for possessing synthetic marijuana. When you're going to go commit crimes, guys, you need to be writing clean as possible. Don't be writing dirty while you're committing crimes. Oh, and I'm maybe ultimately. But yeah, I just thought this is hilarious because they caught her right away and they recognized her as part of being part of the drug crew. Yes, she better call Barnes. The police retaliated against her, chat. We can't allow it. Synthetic marijuana, yes, also known as spice or K2. Access stop that Barnes is licensed here. Is he really? He's licensed in Louisiana? Okay. All right. Oh, and I forgot to mention, we have people over in Rumble. Hey, guys. Northside CA707 is saying, man, that new 9/11 video came out. That guy who was cleaning out his closet and found his 9/11 tapes. And he says 2 weeks later, everybody in Gitmo's copping a plea. What is this nonsense? I don't know, man. I don't know. And then, 9/11 was the end of the dream in the 90s. Yes, it was. Oh, yeah. It was the 90s as a teen were awesome. Yes, they were. TX47 says, did I miss him talking about the 9/11 plea deal? I have questions. Well, go ahead, fire away. But yes, you did miss it. I'll try to answer them the best I can. But yes, I tried to find a little bit more of the story here if there was more to it. But yeah, don't ever. Oh my gosh, guys, you got to be better people to impersonate and make fun of. I just don't think that's the smartest way to handle it. I don't think it's the smartest way to do that. Oh. Oh, okay. All right. Why is this not closing here? Come on. Okay. All right, guys. Moving on. This one here. This is one of the ones that I think we needed. I wanted to wait on. Wayne LaPierre. If you know him, he is the scourge of the NRA. Yes, known as their executive vice president and the CEO. He has been nothing but a disaster for the NRA. Absolutely scummy. And what did he do? He basically just soaked up all the NRA's money. The NRA has had tons and tons and tons of money that him and his lackeys pissed away on kickbacks and basically all sorts of graft and corruption. But because they had stacked the board of directors, and the NRA has about 50 directors on it, you know, these guys were able to hide it and divide the board and divide the NRA and take advantage of it, pay themselves lavish salaries, buy Italian suits, get like mid-tier whores and hookers, and pay for houses and for those mid-tier whores and hookers, all kinds of things. And the amount of money they've pissed away is billions of dollars. Billions of dollars. And that's the scary thing. If the NRA had spent that money, like, people are scared, you know, the NRA is the boogeyman. The NRA hardly spends any money at all politically. If the NRA spent money like the Teamsters did or any other large political group out there, we'd have fucking AK-47s at vending machines right now. I'd have a box full of grenades sitting right next to me if that were the case. But the NRA doesn't spend money. Yeah, mid-tier whores and hookers, pretty much. It's what they were. I've seen the pictures. They were not flattering. It's like for all the money they were paying, they could have got better ones. And no, yeah, job well done. It was all tax. Yeah, Wayne LaPierre is sitting there going, tax-free, bish. And if you guys don't know who Wayne LaPierre is, this is the son of a bitch now. This is him. Fucking scumbag. So, regardless of all of that, if you guys were not aware, Letitia James, the Attorney General for the state of New York, had made it her goal to go after the NRA and take them down. They're the boogeyman. And she launched investigations and got the NRA all wrapped up in their problems. And a big part of it was their bookkeeping, which Wayne LaPierre is facing problems with. And we couldn't get rid of Wayne LaPierre. There were so many drives and attempts to get rid of his ass and get these assholes in the corporate suite of the NRA gone. And we couldn't do it. It was so corrupt. I guess this is what... Thank you, Letitia James. Like, you did us a good deed by getting rid of Wayne LaPierre. Like, thank you. I say this with all sincerity. Thank you for getting rid of him. You don't understand how much you have helped the firearms community and the push for the people seeking to protect the Second Amendment. You have done so good for us by doing this. Like, you truly don't understand. And what happened here? Well, as part of their investigations and things that are going on, and the NRA is organized and incorporated in the state of New York, and that's back in 1871 when they were founded. But he is a 10-year ban from being involved with nonprofits and organizations. But don't worry, he's going to keep all his money. That's the sad part here. So he left the courthouse and, he's barred from 10 years from holding a paid position in the NRA for a decade, which is great, There were some other things that happened with this too. So Wayne LaPierre is banned from holding a position, but the judge declined to appoint an independent monitor to oversee the gun rights group. And yes, it was Letitia James and Judge Joel Cohen. Yes, some angry black woman and some Jewish judge in New York City were finally able to slay Wayne LaPierre and do what all the members could never accomplish. Although, to be fair, there were a bunch of FUDs that were just backing them no matter what. But yes, that's what it took, chat. It took an angry black woman and some liberal Jewish judge in New York City to get rid of Wayne LaPierre. I mean, like, who would have seen that coming if you would have wrote that thing out? 5 years ago when the NRA was acting bulletproof and you couldn't attack them and Wayne LaPierre and his scumbags were running wild, and all hope seemed lost, if you had said, no, guys, here's what's going to happen, people would have laughed at you. People would have laughed at you. So the NRA, if the NRA spent like APAC, well, that too. Oh God, we spent like APAC. When I say grenades, I mean potato mashers, actual potato mashers. Yeah, that's it. I have them in my pocket. Kazuhira Miller says, I hear the Gun Owners of America are better than the NRA. Is that true? Yes. The Gun Owners of America, Second Amendment Foundation, both of those are very good choices to donate to and support. I think the Second Amendment Foundation's better overall, but you can do Gun Owners of America. They both work very well. They're both actually really good, fairly transparent, and they actually spend their money the right way. So I would recommend them if you can. April Imholtz here. Yes. Also, I wish it's not Imholte. Like they're not Latin. Oh. Mexican Vader says, why can't we live in that timeline? I don't know. I don't know why we don't get that timeline, because God seeks to punish us. He tries us out. Yes. Yes. Have you gotten all your awesome NRA gear made in China? Yes, it makes all the boomers happy. Gotta wear your NRA hat in this gun show, Sonny. Yes, did Letitia James based? Yes, unintentionally. And yes, she's strengthening the gun rights community by doing this. And this is an accidental massive W. So. Rhodes says, from the look of it, he'll be dead in 10 years. Well, I hope it fucking hurts. I hope it hurts in hell for him. Wayne LaPierre was a scumbag. So let's see here. There's a couple more things here. Ammo's Currency says, don't commit minors when committing majors. Yes. And Tim Rick says, the NRA's time probably has come and gone. They are too institutionalized and willing to compromise on core principles. Yes, but the NRA has a massive stash of money, and they do have, a lot of land. They have like the Whittington Center and all these other things and resources and assets. Yeah, overall, I'm happy with the NRA taking the back seat, but getting them cleaned out and taking advantage of what they have is probably the next best thing. So, in the first and getting back to the trial though for the NRA, a jury found that Wayne LaPierre and others were liable for misspending millions of dollars on lavish trips and personal expenses. And they point out, and the judge says, I'm not going to have somebody monitor them because it's time consuming, disruptive, and will impose significant costs on them without any benefits. Because remember, if the guys who are siphoning all the money off are gone, well then, yeah, we don't have a problem. So, yeah. It's a good news. It's a feel-good story, Chad. I hope you were looking for a good story tonight. This is a really good story I'm thrilled about. And, you just couldn't happen to a nicer guy. The NRA pissed all their money away. Yeah, they did. They pissed away a lot of it. They paid the law firm that they were contracting out to. It was all a scam, like hundreds of millions of dollars just disappearing every year. The NRA TV, if you guys remember that, it was run by a PR group known as like McQueen Ackerman or Ackerman McQueen. They got paid hundreds of millions of dollars. It was a big money laundering operation. Yes, CG says, as my son would say, he got oofed. Yes, he did. Tim says, no, the NRA pissed away our money. Get that corrected. Yeah, fair enough. But I hadn't paid in a long time, so they haven't pissed away my money in a while. Probably almost 15 years now. Eric Rodriguez says, can she audit the Fed too while she's at it? Yeah, just say, Just turn her loose on the books. That would be hilarious. Oh my gosh, yes. She'd be invincible because nobody could attack her. That's a brilliant idea, Eric. Brilliant, brilliant idea. All right. I saw the Dana Loesch clips. Yeah, but like Colion Noir had a show. Dom Rasso had a show. There were a bunch of like NRA TV people. And yeah, just the amount of money that got pissed away is mind blowing. You know, they you know, and they're going to keep getting money as long as there's boomers around. So they probably got another good 20, 30 years of solid income just coming in at tsunami of money every year. But, you know, that's enough bitching about the NRA. There's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing we can do about it. Yeah, Colion Noir shills for the NRA still. I'm sure he does. That's a shyster lawyer. If you guys didn't know, Colion Noir is an attorney. Johan says, I want to start my own gun policy coalition called the National Infinite Gun Glorification and Education Roundtable. You realize there's the National Association for Gun Rights, NAGR, is an actual organization you can work with. Bella's saying Colion is a big proponent of reparations. Really? That's a surprise. Oh, well. Can't win them all, but I'm curious to know what the hell he said. All right, guys. Now, moving on from there to another case, which I think is really good to cover here, because I think it does matter here. And before you guys think I'm joking, this is true. This is true. A judge has ordered the repealing of New Jersey's assault weapons ban, but he upholds the magazine laws, which you're like, huh? And this judge has released the copious article ever. Yes, it is true. Yes. So here's what happens. This federal judge had to make a ruling in New Jersey. And this is just so damn funny because he's just so butthurt. He is so upset and so angry that what's happening here. So we're going to get to it here. And this is, so this is only page 3 here. And he says, it is hard to accept the Supreme Court's pronouncements that certain firearms policy choices are off the table when frequently radical individuals possess and use these firearms for evil purposes. And he talks about all the shootings and all the bad stuff that happens. He says, even so, the court's decision today is dictated by one of the most elementary legal principles within our legal system, stare decisis. And that is where the Supreme Court has set forth the law of our nation. As a lower court, I am bound to follow it. This principle, combined with the reckless inaction of our governmental leaders to address the mass shooting tragedy afflicting our nation, necessitates the court's decision. For these reasons and below, the AR-15 provision of the assault firearms law is unconstitutional. The large capacity magazine amendment is constitutional. And then he goes from there. And I think it's so funny because you're just like, suffer, judge, suffer. Suffer harder. So they go through this. They talk about a lot of what's going on here. There's a lot of background to it. But within the assault firearms law, they have a bunch of things here. And the law enumerates more than 60 weapons that constitute assault firearms, but are limited to any shotgun revolving cylinders, such as the Street Sweeper or Striker 12. Which the funny thing is, those are shitty shotguns nobody fucking wants. Like, they're not good for anything except for movies. The Beretta AR-70 and the BM-59, the Bushmaster assault rifle, Colt AR-15s, Galils, HK pattern rifles, Ruger pattern rifles, the USAS-12, which is funny because that's federally regulated. That is a destructive device. You can't just buy one. And then Uzi firearms. And as Arnold says in this thing, Uzi 9mm, Uzi 9mm. Can't have an Uzi, chat. And then the Springfield BM-59s and the SAR 48s. So these are parts of it. And they talk about regulating the AR-15. So a lot of the action here is stuff that we can breeze through here because there's a bunch of people that they're covering and they're talking about here. Now, they do bring up, and this is an issue here, they talk about why they didn't allow magazines to be unbanned. And they say in terms of firearms for magazines, it wasn't until the mid-1800s that patents for magazines began appearing in the historical record. You know, and they talk about Roland White patented a box magazine. A guy named Robert Wilson patented a detachable magazine. And it was, and they bring up a point here that you can trace this to after the advent of World War I, that large capacity magazines for machine guns gained increased importance. Well, just in general, every soldier wanted more rounds. They wanted more in their magazine. They wanted more bullets they could shoot right away on command. You know, they wanted semi-automatic weapons. They wanted whatever they get their hands on. So it is very interesting what the issue here is, because they're saying magazines weren't really around back then except for like limited ones that you were attached to the gun. So that's all you're entitled to, which I think is 100% wrong, but that's the argument they're making. So, and they point out that rifles capable in the 1860s of holding more than 10 rounds, but their magazines were fixed. So like something like a Henry rifle, you're going to have a fixed magazine. You know, and they point out that most of these rifles were sold to the military and civilians possess a small percentage of them. Well, if he's talking about Henry rifles, the civilian market bought tons of them. So they keep going here, and they talk about, and it's interesting, they show what the AR-15 is that they're looking at. It could be this bad boy here, which I think is pretty cool. And where is the thing I found before? Let's see here. It is very interesting. Where I just lost the chat cycle. I got to bring this back up. So one of the things they get to, and they challenge this, is they go for the lawful purposes inquiry about whether or not, and the plaintiffs have established that the AR-15 is overwhelmingly chosen by American society for a lawful purpose. There are just tons of AR-15s and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons. You know, and it's estimated as of 2022, AR-15s and similar sporting rifles, so AKs, G3s, any semi-automatic rifle, like that's 24 million owners, and that's a conservative number. Think about all the 80% lowers that are out there. Think about all the 3D printed stuff that's out there. You can get a 3D printed kit for a G3. You could do a 3D printed good portion of an AR-15. So imagine all the crap that's out there they don't actually know about. There's just so much. There's so much. And they point out this ownership number is exceeded only by the number of registered handgun owners within our nation. And listen to him just crying about this. You know, it's estimated there were 24 million AR-15s and similar guns out there. And there's an estimate that as of 2018, there were 5 between 5 and 10 million AR-15s in the hands of civilians within the United States. And they point out that noting in 2009, a year after Heller, that the AR-15 was the best-selling rifle type of the United States. In 2004, it was the best-selling rifle type. People were buying the crap out of them back then. And hold on one second, chat. But it is very interesting here because the judge admits the plaintiff has shown that AR-15s are well adapted for self-defense. And evidence presented to the court that the build of an AR-15 makes it well suited to self-defense because it's lightweight, mild recoil, and good ergonomics, and it's well suited to younger shooters, female shooters, and shooters of smaller stature. Yes, very, very, very true. And they point out all the design features and ergonomics, and its better continuity of fire make the AR-15 a good choice for self-defense. You know, and they point out that plaintiffs have shown that AR-15s would be used or are used for self-defense. I mean, it's really good. It's really good. And they point out that there have been relatively high-profile self-defense shootings in a couple different states, including Florida, Illinois, Texas, Pennsylvania, and Oklahoma. And they include them here if you guys want to look them up. Because you guys can go on Pacer or a court listener and pull this down if you guys want to look for this on your own. Mo folks saying, think of the number you would include in upper lower combinations. Yeah, no, there's a ton of stuff out there. There's a ton of stuff out there. So they keep going, and this judge just keeps BTFOing the state. All right. And here's the issue, and the court says, there's no number for determining what's common. And that's part of the issue here. And that's something... This is something I think was very important. Common ownership. There doesn't have to be a threshold number where you've met it and you're automatically in. And I think that's fair because it might not be a very numerous thing, but that's how all little stuff starts. Every shark was a little baby, guppy floating around or whatever they called little sharks back then. And was a little shark hoping to get eaten, and now he's out there, doing it. Armalite is still around to change hands, yes. So they point out that the state was trying to say handguns are far and away the most commonly used firearm for self-defense, but you restrict people owning handguns too. So just saying. Oh, baby sharks are known as pups. Okay. Yes, baby shark do. Oh. And they point out that the court's being forced to make the difficult judgments regarding regulation and undertaking prior to Bruin. And they point out the court doesn't have to do that anymore. This has simplified a lot of the problems here for him. But listen to him seethe and cope. He hates this. And reading through it, it's just a man who's very, 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 very upset that he has to keep talking about this and he has to keep dealing with this and writing about it. So we get to the big issue here. And this is the constitutionality of the large capacity magazines. So they say that they've been taken away without just compensation. And they oppose that motion because it's already been decided. Yeah. And they point out this was neither an actual or regulatory taking. They can say stuff's illegal and stuff is contraband. And that's how they're getting to the point where this wasn't an unconstitutional taking, even though they took your stuff. So that is where we are. And it's good news for New Jersey. I'm sure this is going to be appealed. It's going to be attacked. But yes, if you are in New Jersey, good news. You guys scored a big, you got a big dub this week, which I think is very, very awesome. Yes, in Kitano, 200,000 was in common use for lawful purposes. And the funny thing was, Kitano was a woman who was unable to get a taser and was being harassed and stalked, and she couldn't get a hold of a taser in time. And that's the sad part there, that they still prosecuted that for a bit. And yes, guys, the Third Circuit is where this is all going down in New Jersey. You guys are wondering. Binary Desks, I have a 20-inch government model from Wally World. Well, nice. Nice. All right. So where are we at now? So, guys, we are actually, you know what? Tonight was yeah, tonight was a lighter night. Tonight was a lighter night. Anubis says, I bet that salt is flowing tonight. Oh, yeah. Oh, you bought a Wyndham Weaponry. Okay. No, so you bought one of the Bushmaster successor guns. Deanna says, we have a Benelli in the garage, but it hasn't been used since my son borrowed it to go duck hunting. Well, you should grab it out of the garage and fix it up. And Luke says, did you do the YSL updates? Luke, no, I did not have a chance, man. Last night, I ended up getting stuck doing some work, helping somebody ghostwrite something. No, I need to work on that. We got a bunch to catch up on this weekend, chat. So. No Boon? Well, there is a little bit of Sarah Boon. I think we talked about it while we were waiting for Ashley Benefield. But you know what? We'll talk about Sarah Boon real quick. We've already looked at it. We've already broke it down. But yes, Sarah Boon filed some, actually, I think pretty clever, requests with the court. And I think it's going to be interesting how the court responds, because I think she did it all the correct way. And I think she'll have a valid argument for an appeal if there's issues. And, we do have some updates of a couple different things here. And the first thing is something is on the docket, and we don't know what it is. Right here. There is correspondence, but it is confidential. So I don't know what this is right here. This blue dude right here. I don't know who that is. I don't know what it is. So it'll be kind of interesting to see what's there, see what's going on with it. Hold on here, chat. What is this? All right. But we do have a couple different things she did. And there's actually even more now. This is actually a lot of new stuff, actually, chat, in the past couple of days. Oh, wow. I'm glad we checked in on this, because this is all new. Some of this is not new. So here we go. Here we go. There's a bunch here. So there's a notice of hearing. And this is what's going on. And that they're going to, and what they're doing for Sarah Boon, guys, if you don't remember, they are taking her discovery and they are copying it on thumb drives and they're putting it onto a laptop. So that's what one of the investigative teams is doing currently. She has a hearing set for next Monday, August 5th, and hopefully her laptop's ready to go. Bahrain says, did you ever take your shirt off with Rakeda and Camelot on stream? Nope. Nope. Nope, not at all. Now, what will happen, and this is the interesting part, this was set a couple days ago, and this is laying out what's going to happen on Monday. So we're going to have a very big Sarah Boon hearing to go through because there's a lot of stuff that's going to address. They're setting a deadline regarding the state and defendant's exhibits. They're setting a conference to view the defendant to view all states' exhibits because she has the right to inspect all the evidence beforehand. Any attorney would, but since she's representing herself, that's it. She has to object to all the state exhibits that she wants to object. The state gets to object to anything she wants to bring in. And there's just so much that they're going to have to do here is to schedule stuff out. The defendant has a couple different motions that are pending. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's like 5 motions pending for this. She's got to do that one hearing. Well, they're going to try to address it because remember, this is set for October. There's not a whole lot of time to screw around right now. That's a very big problem for them. That's a very, 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 very big problem for them. And then we have here, what is this guy? Because this one, I don't recall if I clicked on this one. Yes. So this is what Sarah Boon had filed. And like I said, guys, I will give her credit because she did a couple of these where she's talking crap to the judge, but she's doing a good job preserving a record. Because she's saying she wants to a temporary motion for the reservation of her right to get proposed costs to acquire a new investigator for all the stuff he's doing. And right now, it became clear. It seemed like they were like, oh no, he's working for us and he could charge us. No, that wasn't what was happening with the private investigator. Now, she's asking for this, and it's very important. She's saying investigator to be determined, the amount required, I don't know. She could find those out. She could pick an investigator now and have one ready to go, at least written down on paper, because that's the one thing I think that may hurt her. The rest of this, though, is going to be very interesting to watch from here because, she's saying, I don't know how to do anything about this because I don't have any discovery yet. So I can't tell you who I need, Judge, but I need you to preserve this for me so I can act. Well, she does this repeatedly here for expert witnesses, not just witnesses. She does it for everybody. Yeah, so pack your lunch. And yes, the JAC response, yeah, we're going to get to that in a second. Yes, Fort Laundry, Fort Samsonite. Yes. So what do we have? Well, ultimately, and this is from the Judicial Administrative Commission, this is who's in charge of giving indigent defendants funding for things and through counsel. So Sarah Boon has filed these things seeking costs so she can hire these people and get ready for them. And this will be pretty quick, chat. This is 6 pages. We'll be getting through this pretty fast here. So the defendant seeks authorization for the following things. She wants standby counsel. She wants costs to take depositions, an unspecified amount to an investigator, expert witnesses that can assist, and an unspecified witnesses to appear at trial, which that was a little weird asking for costs because you can't really compensate. You can't really compensate those people for showing up. Actually, hold on here. What is this? Hold on, chat, 1 second. Yeah, KLF, thank you for the JAC thing here. And they say as an initial concern, any future requests need to be served on the JAC prior to the court considering it. They say the defendant is responsible for providing the JAC with any motions for due process costs so they can respond accordingly. Remember, she's being held to the same standard an attorney's being held to. So she has to properly follow the rules. And they're going to keep addressing things. And they may only pay for costs pursuant to the parts of the Florida statutes. And they're saying, as directed, all due process services are subject to Florida statutes. And they say they object to any compensation rate in excess of established rates. They talk about the standby counsel issue. She wants standby counsel. Well, the court entered an order saying she waived her right to court-appointed counsel. Thus, the court has already responded on this issue. So they're saying, hey, you want appointed counsels? You want standby counsel, Sarah? Wrong, not happening. Deposition-related costs. They say she's authorized to incur costs to take depositions pursuant to the Florida Rules of Criminal Procedure. The notices for taking depositions for a court order for purposes of the court reporter, because they have to get compensation for their appearance there. As for the service of process, the service must go through the sheriff unless they can find their own. And as for transcripts, JC has no objection to regular paid rates. They're saying the motion and order must reflect the information to identify all of it. So they'll say, you know what, we're not going to stop you, but you got to do it the right way. Now they talk about the private investigator costs. The rates for investigators cannot exceed $50 an hour. And they talk about any private investigator must have a license from the Department of Agriculture. And you have to be employed by a group with a Class A license. You have to have your own class license, but then everybody else has one too. And they're saying if the court grants the motion, the order needs to indicate the amount authorized for the defense investigator. Based on the docket, it appears Prison Break may have already been appointed to this matter. JC does not object to the court authorizing $5,000 for a defense investigator and $500 for the investigator to obtain case-related documents and materials on behalf of the defendant. Now, expert cost. They initially approved $3,000 at a rate of $200 an hour for the mental health expert, and they don't object to the court continuing that authorization. Now, as for the other experts, she needs to file a motion where she says the identity or type expert, the amount authorized that she wants, and the rates authorized for the expert services. She has the burden of showing the need for each expert witness. Like they're really going to hold her feet to the fire. They are really going to hold her feet to the fire here. And then she talks about the cost for ordinary witnesses, and they say she'll need to submit a more detailed motion delineating the witnesses she seeks to summon for trial and their anticipated costs. So she's going to have to provide more information. Now, because of all this, they point out that they require any vendor, so basically any expert or anybody hired to help a case, To execute a contract and follow JAC's billing and auditing. Well, because this is such a weird thing and she's going to represent herself, they're requesting to participate in the August 5th hearing. And they have the right to be there, especially if they're going to get dragged in like this. They have the right to try to drag it out a little bit. So it's very interesting how things are starting to pop a little bit. Let me see here. Where is... Yeah, this is weird because it's the same thing. So, guys, we're all caught up, and I don't know what that blue box is going to be. But, yeah, that's the last thing we have. That's the last thing we have is that blue box. So, who knows where it's at? It should be interesting to see where it goes from here. Let's see. What are you guys talking about? Spying the crocodiles and palm trees. Jeez. Oh, Sweet Tooth says the Department of Agriculture. Yeah, it's just how it's organized. That's how they probably didn't have a place to put private investigators and security companies. So they're like, here, that's where you're going. You're by the Department of Agriculture. Although, from what I understand in Florida, your concealed carry license is issued through the Department of Agriculture. So, once again, guys, every state is different. Every state is weird. They're so funny and weird. Tim Riggs gifted 5 memberships. Thank you, Tim. Thank you very, very much. Torgo the White says 9 months, bish. Also, you're ever going to cover the FRT ruling? Yes, I need to work on get a hold of that. Funbusters Matt LaRosier said that even these other 2A groups sucks. Don't spend money on right cases or jump in and screw up cases. Yeah, none of these groups are perfect, but there are groups out there that are trying to score wins, and state level organizations are also your next best bet. And Tim is saying, fun fact, the term magazine does not come from firearms in the 19th century, but from 17th century terms that denote the storing where you store munitions on a ship. Yes, because a ship would have a magazine. And then Tim gifted 15 more memberships, Tim. Thank you very, very much. And then I think we're... There we go. We're all caught up there. All right, chat. Yeah, so Carnival Riders are... Yes, well, ships and magazines would be copper lined because iron would cause sparks and copper doesn't. Yes, there's also the risk of, with iron you could have static. Yes, you lined them to protect things from prematurely detonating. Okay. So, guys, we are all done. We are all caught up. Sarah is going to be fighting, and it'll be very interesting what she does going forward. And remember, she's being held to the same standards, and they're going to play very hard with her when it comes to these going forward. What else did we get? Everything? Yeah, we got everything. Everything's off the list, chat. Everything's off the list. Massachusetts' new gun law is horrible. I love living here. Yeah, I heard about that. I need a second to look into that, Lucas. If you could send me a list of it, I really would like to take a look at it, but I want a chance to read it first because I heard it's really, really bad. So, Bifron saying, send you guys over to Good Logic. Well, let's see who's live tonight. Let's see who's live right now. Let's see. Oh, wow, there's a bunch of people on tonight. Okay. Well, here we go. Yeah, I will. Oh, got to set this up. It's one thing I wish YouTube was quicker at. but they don't let you get quicker. They make you click and click and click and click and click and clack. All right, here we go. All right, chat. So we are all set for tonight. If you guys are interested, we are going to be going right over to locals and hanging out. I'm going to abandon you guys. Yes. Yes, I am. No, we're going over to locals. We're going to do locals in a couple of minutes. But if you guys aren't wanting to come to locals, I'll send you over to Joe. I thought bloggers liked clicking. So, guys, that is it for tonight. It's a pretty interesting night. Like I said, we covered a lot of different topics here. And ultimately, I will say, at this point, you know, just because you did it doesn't mean you're guilty. Unless you're Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, then yeah, you are pretty guilty. You are pretty guilty. Or Ashley Benefield, you are pretty guilty. Or Nicolae Miu, you are pretty guilty. A lot of guilties tonight, chat. A lot of guilties tonight. So anyways, guys, we will be out tomorrow. I will be on tomorrow evening. We'll be talking and hanging out. KMW says, what's your locals? My locals is potentiallycriminal.locals.com. And you can join me over there. Use a promo code Booger Sugar for 1 month free. But that's my locals. But yes, we've got a lot of stuff to get through, and it will be a fun time. So guys, once again, thank you all for being here. Thank you for everybody on Rumble, everybody on Twitch, and also everybody here on YouTube. Guys, thank you so much. Thank you for all the comments, all the super chats, all the memberships. I appreciate all of it, all the Rumble rants. And yes, we'll be going over to locals very quickly, and I can't wait to see you guys there. And yes, remember again, just because you did it does not mean you're guilty. Say good night, chat. Good night.
Weapons, blacksmithing, and models of planes, esoteric works, and even some trains. Much merriment had while drinking White Claws, tips on hunting, and even talking the law. Whatever you do, just don't talk to cops, even when they nab you on illegal stops. Just cause you did it doesn't mean you're guilty, but please talk to a local attorney. Was that the fat guy Rick Hayden yelled at? Why, yes it was.